Hi everybody, so this is a video discussing chapters 10 through 13, minus chapter 11 of course, and also I will go over a little bit of chapter 11 and then I'll go through the questions. So to give you a little bit of a synopsis of the chapters, I think we can see that the story is starting to get a little more interesting at this point. Chapter 10 is when Dorian really decides to hide the painting, right? And he really decides that it's too dangerous. It shows too much of a change. And so some guys come over who were going to reframe it, and he decides to just have it put away in the nursery. Kind of an interesting place to put it, but he shoves it into the nursery and covers it. And he does occasionally look at it, but he also does not let anyone else see it. And during that chapter, he gets a book from Lord Henry, and it's called the Little Yellow Book. Now, this is kind of the end of Dorian. Well, it's not totally the end, but Dorian was kind of flipping between, oh, maybe I should be better, and maybe I should just do bad things, and so forth. And Lord Henry's influence, which is suggesting that he do things maybe that are not good for him, kind of luring him into sin or something like that. That influence becomes stronger at this point and is especially strong once the Yellow Book comes into his possession. So chapter 11 is all about the Yellow Book and all the different ways that Dorian becomes what we would call a hedonist. A hedonist is somebody who lives for pleasure. And so that's somebody who lives for different types of pleasures. And in this case, what Wilde describes are pleasures that are a lot of times related to aesthetics. So he talks about how Dorian has copies of the book bound in different colors of leather, because they look good, and how he collects different things. He collects fabrics, he collects pottery, he collects, oh, I don't even remember what else, all kinds of different things. He gets into things like perfumes and, all these different sensory things that are beautiful in one way or another to one of the senses. He's very into those. It also he starts to live a life that is really for pleasure without worrying too much about the consequences. And that's kind of what hedonistic as a word means. Somebody who's a hedonist is somebody who just lives for the moment and for what feels good or seems good at the time. They don't really think about the future consequences of something. And so Dorian begins to live that way. And chapter 11 is just a really long and boring, to be honest, explanation of that. So by chapter 12, we then have Basil showing up. And Basil has been Dorian for a long time. Dorian's now 38. So 20 years have elapsed since Basil painted the picture. And 38 years old, Dorian should be looking quite a bit older. To give you an idea, I'm 39. So, I don't look the same as the seniors. There is definitely a difference, and I don't look the same way that I looked senior year of high school. If I did, that would be strange and disturbing. Well, Dorian hasn't changed at all in that time. And because he hasn't changed, and such time has elapsed, people are maybe surprised by it, but they kind of make, excuses for it, I guess. And some people do age really slowly, so maybe that's how he gets away with it. But anyway, Dorian sees Basil, and Basil asks to come in and see him, and so he does. Dorian allows him to come in even though he doesn't really want him there. And then Basil talks to Dorian about different things because Basil is leaving on a trip for Paris. He's going to be going to Paris for, I think, a year and a half, quite some time, and he's going to work there. And so he was supposed to leave, I believe, that day, but then he decided to wait till the next day. Anyway, he's leaving. And so nobody expects to see Basil again. And for a long time. And the Parisians are, of course, expecting him to arrive soon, but they're not sure exactly when he's coming. So anyway, Basil comes in, he talks to Dorian, he talks to him about the painting, he talks to Dorian also about a lot of rumors that he's heard about Dorian. Excuse me, rumors about Dorian's behavior toward other people. And how he's ruined a number of women and men. It's not clear how he's done that, but there's some hint of definitely impropriety there. And he just looks into kind of Dorian's behavior. And he encourages Dorian to refute these claims, to start to behave better, etc., to tell him they're not true. And Dorian doesn't want to do all that. And Basil basically says he wishes he could look into Dorian's soul. And then, of course, Dorian says, well, you can. And so, in sort of a crazy moment, Dorian takes Basil into the room where the painting is held, shows him the painting, which is now horribly disfigured. Basil at first doesn't believe it's his, then he realizes it is, based on the signature, and he's totally horrified by it, and he, basically, tells Dorian, oh my God, this is so awful, you need to repent, you need to do this, you need to do that. And Dorian is really angered by all this, and Basil's rejection of him as evil, and so forth. And Dorian, in a fit of rage, grabs a knife from the table, conveniently there, and stabs Basil and kills him. So Dorian, remember, Basil was the good influence, and he was always trying to get Dorian to do good things or do things that would be good for him. And here he's continued to try to do that, and as a result, Dorian has killed him. And so now he's bleeding out on the floor. Dorian, however, realizes that this is not as bad as it could be because nobody's expecting to see Basil now for a year and a half except those in Paris who don't know when he's exactly arriving. So, it's a perfect situation. And what he does is Dorian slips out the door or out the window, comes in, knocks at the door so his butler will open it, and then says he's forgotten his keys. So the butler will give him an alibi should he need it that he was not there at the time. And of course the body is now hidden in a room, and Dorian is thinking of ways to deal with this, and he realizes he's going to call Alan Campbell. So Alan will come into the next set of chapters, but not this one. All right, so big dark turn for sure in the narrative here. One that's interesting and perhaps unexpected, but we will look at these questions here. Number one, if Dorian is enjoying the life that he's chosen, why does he persist with it? And that's a good question. Why does he keep doing this? He says sometimes he doesn't really enjoy it. He's looking for pleasure, he's looking for fulfillment, and he's not finding it. So why not change to something else? And maybe there are different answers to that, but you need to think about why would he choose to do that? Number two, is the picture the cause of Dorian's problems, or is the source Dorian himself? What larger meaning might your interpretation have? So, is Dorian doing these things because they'll never show on his face? And is that what's causing him to behave this way with such impunity? Or is it just a side effect and he would have done this anyway? Good question. The yellow book's extremely important. Why? Just start with the idea of Dorian being guided by the book and the impact it has on him. If you're interested, it has been suggested the book in question is Joris Karl Huysmans' decadent 19th century novel, A Rebours, translated as Against the Grain or Against Nature. So why is that an important image? Especially if we know if it's called Against Nature. Might be something interesting there. Why would it have such an effect on him? Number four, there were moments when he looked on evil simply as a mode through which he could realize his conception of the beautiful. This is a complex statement. Explain what you think it means in your own words. So that was in the text. Can something evil really just be a way that you could realize your conception of beauty? Is that fair? Can we say something evil is beautiful? Does evil automatically taint it? What do you think? How could a decent man create a piece of art that creates such evil? Good idea. Is Basil in any way to blame for this? Basil created it. It's an evil thing, but Basil himself seems to be an object of goodness in many ways. So that's a complicated question. Why would the sight of the painting have such an impact on Basil? Maybe that's related. Why was Basil quite so upset when he saw it? What does this tell us about Basil and about his personality? And finally, number 7, look closely at the moments before and after during Basil's murder. Where is the suggestion that the painting tells Dorian to kill Basil? Okay, is there a suggestion like that? And if so, where is it? And is Dorian, again, just projecting onto the painting, or is the painting in some way having a nefarious evil effect on him? So, all good questions. You can answer any of them. Just do one well-developed paragraph and submit that to me. And thank you very much for many of you continuing to do the work. If you have any questions, of course, get in touch with me and I will help. Otherwise, I will continue to grade and I will be posting again next week. Thanks.